As far as the piano went, I progressed as far as the Mendelssohn G minor concerto myself. Then after 31, I just figured that why learn any more about the piano? So, but I should have continued it, I suppose. Because now I'm terribly rusty. It's with the piano.
We sometimes will play Captain Branson's marches even.
They're excellent marches, yes.
Yes, I wanted to know what you thought of them because you would have played them, some of them, the first time.
Right.
Can you tell me which ones you played that were brand new?
The Marine Corps Institute. That's his most prominent march, I
Yes,
believe.
it is. That's the one we play most often.
Well, I think that march is the equal of probably the finest march written here since Sousa's day. Definitely. And did you write the Marines of Bellow Wood? Was that another?
Yes, sir.
Right, yeah. That's a pretty good march that I remember. But outside of the Marine Corps Institute, I probably should have played more of his marches, which I do regret. I think he would have enjoyed seeing his name in the paper, but for somehow reason I didn't do it. I know Sandeman played his father's marches, Thomas Jefferson. So, but Branson was an excellent band composer, I would say that, yes.
And at the time, did the people in the band think that his marches were up to par?
Well, they knew the Marine Corps Institute was an excellent march. A lot of the men didn't like Branson. The older men didn't like him for some reason. But I don't know, they knew him when, I suppose, and then maybe they'd been friends of his, but a director has to stop being friends, as I well remember. And I think he antagonized some of them. Well, they knew him when and all that. They just didn't. They were older men. Their time was getting short. They sort of denigrated them here and there. But there were some, who would take, I thought would spread rather a poisonous doctrine. They would get hold of these younger fellows back in the shell and tell them, well, don't pay attention to what the old man was doing and all that. That's how to get in trouble, of course. The young fellows bought that. And well, tell the director this and that. You tell him. Well, why do the older men tell him? We try to use these fellows as guinea pigs. It was not very commendable, but there were too many of those fellows. Now, Branson did have some very good friends still in the band. Men he'd been particularly friends with when he himself had been a player. The Italian first level player, Onofre. I guess they were family friends. And there's several others. He had great respect for the first flutist, Clayton Lindsay. You've heard of him, I'm sure, here. The finest flutist the Marine bands had, I'm pretty sure of that. And he had respect for the people who could play well. Now, he took in 1934. I always say 1934 was a great year for the band because he enlisted me, and then Charlie Owen came, and I was telling my wife that was a good year for the band. And the following year, I remember that he called me over. Ollie Zinsmeister, the percussionist, came down to play, and then Branson found out he was from Rochester, and he called me over. He says, "Did you know him up at the Eastman School of Music?" "Oh, yes." I said, "Very fine, very fine." And of course, he turned out to be that way, too. Then about 36, another fine horn came down, Harold Carty. Beautiful French horn player. He and I played in the Inter-High School Orchestra in Rochester. We used to ride streetcars together on Saturday mornings and go to the orchestra rehearsals. And Carty was an excellent player, and he came down and he played one of the Mozart concertos for horn. Beautiful job. This tall, thin fellow smoked continually, coughed a lot. And we were down in Dallas, Texas. And I think I know what... Well, no, Carty, he went through that 36 year. All right, very well. We were down in Dallas, Texas in 37. A repeat visit to the Texas Centennial. Just walking around the fairgrounds, Carty come out of the Ferris wheel or one of those high-rise rides. He had a hemorrhage right there on the fairgrounds. We rushed him to the hospital. And we had to take Pullmans in those days back to Washington. So Carty was confined to his Pullman car. He took his meals to a lung was gone. Went directly, I think, from we had an ambulance here, went to the Naval Hospital, the old Naval Hospital, which then was up on Constitution Avenue around 23rd Street. The buildings remain. Not far from Lincoln Memorial. Carty was confined there, and then they sent him down to Norfolk, and it collapsed in the lung. So we never saw Carty again as far as a player after that trip to Dallas. He was in the band probably a total of maybe a year, a little more. And then they sent him up to Saranac Lake. The Adirondacks, which in those days was the cure. You had to stay in a screened porch. 12 months, snow and everything, confined to the bed. And Carty did get a small government pension out of it all, which is amazing. After that short time, we're out of it.
Yeah, excuse me just a minute. So you were telling me about the people who had come in between 34 and 39. Was there anyone else?
No, I don't remember anyone else outstanding. Some run-of-the-mill players came in, and I think the outstanding people I mentioned, Owen and Zinsmeister, Harold Carty. No, I don't remember anything else. The band was more or less steady then. After all, there weren't too many openings. There had to be retirements, after all, to provide an opening for a person. But gradually the band enlarged. I think Sandelman increased it finally, around 1940, maybe 15 more men. I know I did at 55. So a whole new crew came in. But the band was more or less steady. As I say, when Carty came in, the former first horn, Seidler, retired in 30 years. Therefore, there was one opening. Down came Carty to fill it. And then also, I think, in 34, the brilliant percussionist Bill Kiefer retired, and then came Owen. There had to be an opening, first of all. And the band being small discouraged applicants, I suppose. The word would get out if we needed to fill a vacancy here and there. The word would get out and people would come. But there weren't as many vacancies as the band.
Okay, so Captain Branson didn't seek any of these people. They all came to him, even the very good ones?
Yeah, I think that probably the players themselves who were going to retire may have had contacts on the outside with various teachers and so forth. But I remember never having to advertise any players. Does the band do that now?
Yes, sir, we do.
Well, of course, you probably need more people, which we didn't in those days. We were limited.
In one of the things I read about Captain Branson, it explained that he was interested in school music and that he was planning on conducting some high school bands after his retirement. Was there ever any time during the period when you knew him that he was active in academic band or orchestra activities?
I don't recall it. No, I don't. I recall Branson occasionally making a guest appearance, maybe with a band up in Pennsylvania, but I'm sure it was not a school band. It's an organizational band of some kind. Now, I think the Marine Band joined, from what I hear, rumors, that Branson was averse to joining the American Bandmasters Association in the early 30s when it was formed. Was that formed around 1932?
The first was in 28, and the first real meeting was in 39.
39?
I mean, sorry. 28 and 29. Sorry, sir.
Okay. But I think I've heard talk, I've never seen it in print, that Branson was against joining these other bandsmen. And I think, wasn't there a convention held here in 1932 around that time?
Yes, sir, it was in 32, and it was dedicated to Sousa.
All right. Right.
And he conducted the premiere of Holst Hammersmith at that convention.
Who did? Branson?
Yes, sir.
Branson did. But I think at that time, as I say, he was not too warm about the Marine Band participating too much. And then I think, again, these are rumors, which I maybe shouldn't be airing, that Edwin Franco Goldman, who was a prime force behind the organization, I think, the ABA,
Yes, sir, he was.
went to Congressman Saul Bloom in New York. Then Saul Bloom, Congressman from New York City, Congress here, and asked Bloom to put some pressure on the Marine Band to provide more logistics and so forth.
For that particular...
For that particular engagement. And even after that, I don't recall Branson being too active in the ABA. I know Sandelman was much more so, and went to every convention. But I don't recall Branson being out of town anymore on ABA conventions.
What about yourself?
I joined the ABA. I was assistant director of the band. I was never able to attend a convention because of the Gridiron Dinner. Here in the spring of the year, the convention was held at the same time. Now, I know Sandelman would go down and make a token appearance out of respect to it. And I guess Bourgeois doesn't have that conflict because the Gridiron Dinner is later in the year now, I think.
Okay.
So let me continue with that story about that,
Sure.
though. I was able to attend one down in San Antonio in 1964 because after the death of Kennedy, late 63, the Gridiron Dinner changed its original date to a later date, maybe in the spring. So I was able to go down to San Antonio, and I conducted Jericho by Morton Gould, band there. And I enjoyed it. The hospitality was nice and all that. Then when I became director, well, I was a director then, of course, at the time. And maybe a year or two later, I recommended my assistant director, James King. And I was rather put out that the ABA said, well, we'll consider him. He has to go on a year's probation. Of course, I flared up at that regulation. I said, here's a man who conducts well enough to go to the White House and conduct there in front of thousands of people at Capitol concerts and all over Washington, thousands of people on the tours we make, transcontinental tours, and he has to go under scrutiny. I said, forget it. Withdraw his nomination, and I am resigning as well. I walked out on him just like that.
Yeah, I saw it that you had resigned.
Yeah. I was indignant.
Well, we have kind of almost flip-flopped that now.
Oh, yes.
And the band is very active in the academic world.
Yes.
And for something else that interests me, I would like to ask you, it moved from Branson not being very interested at all in the academic music to now us being very involved in academic activities. And I'd like to ask your opinion on that, if you feel that is a activity that the Marine Band should have.
Yes, I do. And frankly, I went to Interlaken several years, and I conducted out there. I enjoyed it very much working with the younger people. Of course, I had some comparatively speaking, skilled players. They wouldn't be there otherwise. Well, I can think of nothing worse than being a school band director. Because I know there's some green material there, and that would not be my cup of tea at all. That would not be my milieu, being in a school band auditorium. No, but I think the band should encourage that. Not only that, it's like having a good farm system in baseball. You may pick up some good players in the course of their development if you find them young and keep an eye on them. I look back also at the time when I enlisted Fred Erdman. He came down here when I was assistant director, and his father brought him down. He played very flashily and naturally right there in the band office upstairs. Well, Samuel wasn't very encouraging with him. He said, well, he told me, he says, I won't be here next year. If you want to follow up on him, go ahead. Just before his retirement, it was probably the winter of '54 or something, yeah. And I kept that fellow in mind right away. As soon as I took over the band in the following May, I contacted him. I may have told this to Frank Brand, too.
No, I don't think you did.
Okay. So I contacted the Erdmans, and, well, Fred wrote back that he was thinking about going and studying trumpet at Curtis. I told him, look, that may be fine. For 4 years from now, you'll get out of the Curtis with a trumpet in your hand, then you'll move into some orchestra and play actor beats most of the time on second trumpet, because you're not going to move anybody out of a first-chair symphony. I said, you're a cornet soloist. Down here's a market for you, a stage. Come down and you'll be featured as a soloist. And he was, naturally. I took him in, and he was one of my earlier soloists. He was ready. He was ready the year before. Why bury himself in a symphony? So I talked him into coming here. And his brother the same way a year later. Of course, I think I had no qualms about convincing him, because he saw his brother was enjoying this job. I had no difficulty convincing him, I would say. And he was ready to play too, 16 or 17. But that pair doesn't come along very often.
It's very rare.
But now we mentioned Zimmerman, now there was another one. I think Pennsylvania has been a great band state for the Marine Band, supplier.
I think so.
I took many fine clarinetists from up there, too. You may have heard about the teacher up in Harrisburg. We taught, well, years ago, we taught Joe Leo and Malsh, Clarinetski, Italian name, and Thomas Dicton. They all had this one private teacher. He sent them down here, and so I'm always grateful to those good Pennsylvania teachers.
From talking to some other people, it seems like that whenever I ask them about Taylor Branson, that the first thing that they tell me about is something that's negative. And they mention breakdowns, mental breakdowns of the members of the band, that there was a possible, I haven't followed up on this, that there was a possible suicide, and that the marital problems, and you seem to have either been bypassed or lived through his harassment and the things that went on. Can you comment on, do you feel that these things that did happen, because you've mentioned some of them, that did happen with the band members, do you feel that it was brought on by him, or in any way influenced by him that these negative things would happen to band members?
I would not lay the blame on Taylor Branson. These men may have had their own problems at home. Many of them had financial problems. After all, none of us made any money in those days. They may have had their own financial problems and family problems as well. There was one suicide, as I remember, while I was here. That was Carl Schoepper.
Yes, that's the one
right.
that has been mentioned.
I remember the day of the it was a broadcast. It was a Saturday broadcast, maybe the Farm and Home Hour or something like that. And Branson himself was in a very agitated state, as was the entire band. He himself was quite shaken up there. I remember a lot of the more vindictive members of the band glaring at Branson that day, as though they were trying to put the blame on him. Now, I don't know what friction there may have been between the two of them. Schoepper would drink pretty hard now and then, and his brother was a notorious drunk. And Branson really got rid of him in a hurry. I forgot his name. But Carl was the cornetist who committed suicide. The other brother played clarinet too. And so Branson may have been picking on those fellows, maybe justifiably, so I don't know, to keep them sober. Anyway, there's this one day, Schoepper blew his head off. And it was just before broadcast, so you can imagine the immediate reaction of the band. The word spread here. It was pretty sad, very sad broadcast hour. And Branson himself was very shaken. He felt the weight of it all.
So he did really care about the people?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did care about them. Sure he did. He got rid of some people, and there was good reason to. I remember there was a young fellow who had maybe a few months before I joined, Charles Mandel, and he was on some government instruments just to get some cash. Poor fellows had to fall off the parade ground, they stripped the stripes and buttons off, and he was out. I don't think Branson, maybe somebody in the quartermaster's department discovered this in the pawn shop and put before, but Branson had to get rid of him. I don't think he enjoyed doing that either. Now, he did enjoy seeing the older men depart after 30 years, I know that. One of the funnier fellows in the band was Frank Wittgenshauser, saxophonist, Hungarian name and all. And we took him out to dinner just before he was retired. He says, last week I went up to see Captain Branson. He says, Captain Branson, he said, I'm only 48 years old, I got my 30 in, I'd like to stay on longer. And Branson wheeled around, he says, not in your life. Absolutely not. Wittgenshauser kept pounding his fist on the table, the glasses were flying around. He was Branson. How do you mean one around anymore? But Branson always felt that you're holding up someone else's progress as well if you stayed over 30 at all. Wittgenshauser was a real mimic to it. He was very, very funny. Oh, we missed him. He put on a great act that night, telling us how Branson turned him down. Let's see what else I can say. Well, Branson had a little trouble also, I think in the early winter of 35, because when I came in the band, there was principal musician, first class, second class, and third class musician. So maybe there was maybe more than one man qualified for the promotion, see. So only one man could get the actual piece of paper itself. But Branson would split the difference in pay. You ever heard this before? No. Maybe I shouldn't continue. But he was doing what he thought was the right thing. Now, I remember in the summer of 34, there was a vacancy. The Seidler went out, the old horn player. He used to also call me Prince Chrysler. A few months later, I knew him there anyway. And then I received the third class promotion, the third class rating. But Owen was in the band at this time also. Charlie was already prominent soloist and featured himself in the summer. And he took over the section as a section head. So when I got the promotion, but I had to give half my pay difference to Charlie Owen. And I understand that at the time, remember there were 3 and 4 splits as the ratings went up, Say a fellow made up the first class, you're going to give a portion of your pay to so-and-so, and a portion of your raise to so-and-so too. And then the avalanche started. Somebody leaked that information to headquarters. Somebody protested against giving up that money, getting promotion, giving up the pay difference. It was a big investigation. And we had to go up and testify before the executive officer, I think it was at the time, Lemuel C. Shepard, then future permanent Marine Corps. And Branson was quite shaken by that, all of that. And the question put to you was, were you forced to do this? Of course, most of us said no. We weren't forced to do it, but it was suggested to do it, that we had to do it. I can't ever remember Branson withholding the promotion paper himself. He said, I will not give any of this promotion money to my associate. He never did. Usually you were told, you've been promoted, but now you will give some of this pay difference to so-and-so. Well, that was accepted practice. I would have been the last person in the world to say no, because I understood it was going on for years and years. But it came to light that time, and Branson was investigated, of course, strictly illegal. It seems ridiculous now, doesn't it? Any man in the military would say, here's a promotion for you, but you can't have all the pay. But Branson ran his own world down here, you see. That was it.
What was his motivation behind splitting up the pay like that?
Well, not to discourage the fellow who didn't get the promotion itself. He wanted to reward him in some way financially to show that his work was being appreciated. But I have just so many ranks to pass out. That was Branson's philosophy. Here, to salve your wound, you'll get some of the money. It seems highly irregular now, doesn't it? Ridiculous, in fact. Yet in those days it went on here. I do know that. But it came to a head. And after that investigation, of course, Branson, he could have been in deep trouble, and I guess they simply told him, this has to stop right now. And it changed his personality quite a bit after that, too. He became a little harsher toward everyone in the band, more tyrannical. He felt that somebody had cut his throat, I suppose, just back all these metaphors. But his attitude changed. Hard. So I was trying to do some good, and it's all been undone. I'm in trouble and all that, you see. That did change him, I remember that. I hope this doesn't get back to all the Bransons. I enjoyed Captain Branson. I enjoyed his wife. I know some of the children. Maybe I shouldn't be telling you. You have the right to delete this now. I'll leave it up to your discretion.
Yeah, I don't use things that would be damaging to
I
people.
don't think you should, but I'm just telling you now, frankly and friendly, that did change Branson's personality. He thought he was doing a good thing, you know. He didn't get a penny out of the provisions himself. He just tried to be more equitable, keep more people happy. So let's let it go at that, okay? And at least you know about it.
If he was so tyrannical during rehearsal and would pick on people for problems that he knew about, why was it so important to him to be more fair with the money?
That I don't know. He wasn't too tranquil during rehearsals. He was excitable during rehearsals. Very excitable. Almost nervous-like. And I never thought Branson would live to be 89 years old. I thought the blood vessels would burst in his head. I thought he died of stroke long before that. He had a flushed face and all that. I understand he liked to go to the track, play the horses, and drink scotch now and then. He was very generous sometimes after a big job, like downtown at the Willard. We'd wind up the Carabao, the gridiron dinner. He'd order a couple bottles of scotch for the orchestra, and he'd sit there and drink. He was the host. Poured him down, too. But he was very, very kind in that way.
Did he get drunk? Or
Never.
So just in moderation?
I say moderation. I do remember one time, Sam, in 1935, some legislation was passed. See, the director of the Marine Band drew the pay and allowances of a captain when I came in here. Pay and allowances.
Not a captain.
Not the commission itself. But apparently Branson had friends working on Roosevelt, Secretary of the Navy, had some connections. And in 1935, legislation was passed to enable the present director of the Marine Band to become commissioned officer. And Branson, Sam often told me this, he said, we had a broadcast that morning, and Branson said, just got some good news, gentlemen. You take the baton, I'm going to get a bottle of scotch and go home. He's going to celebrate. And so he was the first commissioned captain.
So he let Salomon...
Salomon had to do the broadcast. He was going home and celebrate. Well, I think he deserved it after all.
Did he initiate wanting that or in any way?
Getting the commission for himself? Mm-hmm. I'm sure he did, because the Marine Corps was never helpful about it. In fact, after he retired, Salomon was under that same dubious status. I think I told Frank Byrne that there were feelings among the then second leader, whoever, that when Salomon accepted a commission in 1942, because the war was on, and they made him a line officer, still kept him here as director of the Marine Band, technically that job was vacated, you see, because that was never changed, that pay allowances, until 1956. I was the first fully commissioned officer to become more than a captain, because a year later I was a major, and a year after that I was a lieutenant colonel. But I made it legit. You know, And my assistant director became a legitimate officer too, a commissioned officer. Martin became a lieutenant, became a captain. And King became the same too. Then the terminal rank, was lieutenant colonel. And then from that time on, from 56 until 1970, Congress passed a law, but not far enough. They made my rank terminal, lieutenant colonel, and the captain for assistant directors. I'm the one who went down and pulled a few strings here and there on the hill and sent a member up to headquarters to explain why I should be a full colonel. And keep the door open. Don't close it. Let the director become commandant someday.
Well, when you initiated that to try to get full colonel, how long did it take between the time you initiated to the time you actually got the promotion?
Okay, Jim King was here still in 1968. And then he got that thing going about late 67. In 1970, the act was passed. Poor King was gone. He retired in 68. Voted him right along with Harper, Major. So it did take some time. In fact, the commandants had changed in the meantime, too. But Chapman was commandant. I initiated this under Greene. And luckily the legislative side was on my side.
Yeah, it is.
So Greene, I don't know whether he was enthusiastic about it or not. He did let it go through. But Chapman did put some pressure to stop its hiatus. I mean, it wasn't going anywhere, but he went to work on Senator Stennis, I think, and Mendel Rivers, good friends of the military.
Well, now, when Branson got the actual commission, did that change him in any way? You said that this other thing changed his personality.
Yeah.
Did this have a similar, an opposite effect?
Well, he was more elated for a time. Yeah, so I think he was probably happier then. But he didn't hold it too long, though. That was, I think, 35, 36, 7. By 38, he was not good health. I understand he suffered from some inner ear problems and lost his balance.
I couldn't find what exactly.
That was the problem, yes, he became dizzy.
Dizzy?
There's a technical name for it, I know. And after he retired, I did read something in the paper that Branson was going to take over what they called a Washington Symphony or Philharmonic Orchestra. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe there were one or two rehearsals or maybe not even a concert. And then that folded too. I did not get enough help for that. So that's about it.
Let's talk about John Zimmerman.
Right.
Can you tell me, do you remember about the audition?
Yes, I do.
Tell me about that.
He came down with his father. And, Lehman, it was an afternoon. I asked Lehman to be there as well. And we sat out in the band hall and stood up there and played euphonium, first of all. Very impressive, brilliant solo. I was impressed. He was in high school at the time, not quite sure. When he graduated. His father said, well, I'd like to hear him on the trombone too. I said, yes, he plays trombone. Trombone did not compare. So fine, I said, my advice is this: sell the trombone, come back here after you graduate from high school, and you're going to be the euphonium soloist, like Mr. Lehman here. That's all I told him. I've never used those literal words. Sell the trombone, and then come back. That's when he came in, strictly on his own word.
When he came back in 2 years, did you feel that he played better, or the same as the time you heard him before?
Well, I thought he played. I heard more of him actually after he came back, so I heard more frequently. So I was probably more impressed the second time because he got up and stood next to me and followed the. I was conducting the solos. I knew what he was doing. Right? Yes, he was a finished product, the same as the two Erdmann boys. Definitely. So.
How would you compare him with his solo playing with Art Lehman's?
Well, Lehman, I think, had a distinctive tone. More, you put a old Marine Band record on, you know it's Lehman back there. Like in my recording, I hope you heard it sometime, the Samson and Delilah selection. There are three great voices there at the end. There's Irwin and the cornet, trombone, Erdmann, and then Lehman back there also. And Malsham, the first chair. So that's a pretty fine recording. I always think about those fellows when I play that. He was a fine technician, John was, definitely so. In fact, I hated to see him give up music. I understand he had a physical problem. Did he have lip problems at one time after I left?
I'm not sure. I'd have to ask.
I heard that, and he came back in a different role. He didn't play anymore.
Well, he was out for about 2 years, and he did play, after you allowed him to come back in, he did play more, and then it was in 70 or 71 that he went into the operations office.
I see.
So he did play a little bit more after you allowed him to come back in.
I wasn't aware that he would come back under my administration.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'm
Maybe
confused about
that was later on, yeah.
Okay.
But he's out of music now entirely.
Yes, sir.
But he tells me he's going to be a financial consultant or something. Hope he has to study with Ivan Boski. He'll be sending him flowers. I hope he makes a great success of his new career, really.
I'm sure he will.
Oh,
He's,
yeah.
been so good at everything else.
He's an accomplished boy.
Did you need at any point to push him in learning new solos, or was he always able to deliver for you?
He was always ready to deliver. It was the same as the Erdmans. They had things ready. Lehman had solos. Now, I prodded a lot of the younger fellows, just like Branson did. And I had a wealth of material to select from, too, because, as you know, I changed the format of the band, and I took in some real bandsmen. I ended all the doubling, so I took in players who were outstanding on one instrument alone. That's all I demanded. But when they got here, they had to play band-aids.
Did you ever get to know John Zimmerman personally, so that you could tell me about him as a
No, not too much personally. I knew his parents, and I had admiration for them. Because they came down to hear him often. In fact, they would come down to hear concerts here, and I was here after him. In fact, I went up to his father's testimonial dinner after he became director emeritus up there in New Holland. It's people like that who produce a boy like John. The same as the Erdman boy's father. Start them young. And both those fellows were band directors, you know, Mr. Zimmerman and Mr. Erdman as well. So they knew what to demand from their own offspring. High regard for it.
Do you feel that of the other members in the band that his musicianship was on an equal par with them when he did come in after he auditioned and then came into the band?
Well, as far as I could tell on his instrument back there, of course, Lehman's rather overshadowed this section. And but I felt he was certainly better than some of the other fellows back there. I will mention no names. But, I mean, he and Lehman, I was fortunate to have Lehman and Zimmerman there. Zimmerman was probably number 2, there's no question about it. And he was superior to other players. Definitely. The same as I brought young Erdman along pretty fast to the trombone section. I think he was the youngest E9 in the Marine Corps when I promoted to E9. Because after all, he was occupying the seat. In my estimation, responsibilities of the job call for the higher pay, regardless of the man's age. He was doing the job. Isley had just left. And I understand that people came down from headquarters. They wanted to see this young fellow who'd been in the band a few years, was the youngest E9 in the Marine Corps, just to look at Jimmy Erdman. But that's the basis on which I made promotions. If you occupied the chair, you were going to get the rank. And I was the sole judge of it. I didn't have any auditions like I understand they do now, or a board of judgment, a court of some kind to promote the man. Oh, no. I knew what the man did. When I signed my name on that piece of paper, that's all there was to it.
Can you tell me about your experiences with Bob Isley as a musician?
Oh, excellent, of course. Isley came down the same as I did. We had no appointments. We happened to be in Washington and walked in and played for the director of the Marine Band. As I told Frank, I had no appointment when I came down here. And Isley told me the same thing later on. They said he was in the barracks and he just came down and told Branson what he wanted to play. And he said within 5 minutes, Branson was calling for the assistant director and the drum major to sign up this boy. That's how to come in, I suppose.
I've heard records of him playing his trombone. Could you tell me about your feelings about his solo trombone playing?
Yes. A #1 technician, a beautiful tone. He played these particular solos. I mean, the Clark solos and the Pryor solos, I should say. I could never could understand why he would never play the Rimsky-Korsakov concerto for trombone and band. He just didn't want to get into larger works, which always really surprised me. Erdman have done it. He's done it many times. Anyone else played it since I left? Rimsky-Korsakov? The Erdman made one recording with Jack Klein one time.
I would have to check, but I don't think
so. They do. But Isley always played these little 5-minute solos. I mean, he could have been overrated as far as solo performance goes. I mean, the repertoire he selected. But he certainly played every note from beginning to end. He was a flashy player. One thing I never liked was that cornball act that Sandelman had him do on the tours. Play Alexander's right. That was pretty low taste. As bad as playing Let's All Sing Like the Birdies Sing or something back in the 30s, you know. That's showmanship. That was called showmanship, I guess. Wrong. What else?
What about Buddy Burroughs?
Oh, John. Excellent player as well. In fact, he joined the band around 35, so he and I were contemporaries, and we had lots of fun together and enjoyed the trips. We were never particularly close here in Washington, but I mean, he was more a bandsman, number one. He was a bandsman. He played viola, I think, in the orchestra, or a string player. But excellent member of the band, always had the interest of the band at heart, still does, I know that. He has a great deal of regard for the band's history. He spread the good word of the Marine Band around the world, as far as I know, too. He traveled a great deal. I would say that that's the kind of member that the Marine Band should have.
What is your assessment of his musicianship?
Well, there again, limited repertoire, and what does the euphonium have to offer, after all? It's not too much. It's a concert instrument. But he played capably, and again, all the notes were there, but I think some of those fellows back there couldn't play. I'm not sure which one it was. Could not get up and play without music. No, I don't know whether it was Burroughs or Kimball. It was a fellow named Kimball, Don Kimball, too. I think he was one who could never play without music. Some people are soloists, and as you know, some people are not soloists. But Burroughs did a great job back on the chair. That's what a man's primarily hired for, to play with the band programs. So my best regards to John.
Let me go back to John Zimmerman for a minute. Did he ever disappoint you in a solo performance?
Oh, no, never.
Did each of his solo performances seem to get better to you?
Well, he started out at a pretty high level. I do think he did improve, however, yes. I think he learned more of our style of playing, and maybe Laban may have given some coaching as well. So he was bound to improve, yes. Definitely so. He played as a young boy, a technical wizard when I first auditioned him. He turned it into a ripened soloist, a tour soloist, sure.
Well, Colonel, I have learned an enormous amount of information. Is there anything else you'd like to add about any of the things we've talked about? Something that we didn't cover about Taylor Branson that you could tell me about?
I just like to say I learned a great deal from Taylor Branson, and I'm grateful to him for having accepted me in 34. I learned a great deal from William F. Sandelman as well. I was fortunate that he again furthered my career, and I learned, and I watched intently, both as men, how they ran the band. I may have formed opinions on how I would or would not pursue their way of doing things. Some things I did pursue from each one. I learned Branson's discipline. Branson was a strict disciplinarian. Sandelman was too. But I mean, after all, they were leaders. They were people to look up to. I'm proud to say I learned from both of them. A lot of people didn't care about learning, but I did. I wanted to. Some people went in the gate, checked their brains, and then they picked up the gate, and then they went back out again, you know. But I thought you're here to make your living in this place. You don't have to enjoy every bit of it. I hated a lot of it. The military aspect of it, funerals and things like that, those parades out there. And, I hated the parade ground. I hated the parade ground after I became director, because it cost me so many good players. The band, do they like it to this day, going out there? Of course not. Well, and that was the drawback, too. I had to fight that thing. I had to explain that to many commanding officers. And they tried to sell me on how much good the band was doing out there. So, yeah, there's a very large bunch of unhappy bandsmen. Of course, you couldn't fight the system. It's part of the job.
What were the things you liked very much about your experience as a fine musician?
I enjoyed the White House work. I came here at the second year of the New Deal, and a lot of glamorous people were coming in and out of the White House. You know, it was history. And I enjoyed my associations. Maybe I told Byrne this too. Truman's, because I was in charge of the Blair House music, a small orchestra across the street. And I enjoyed all the presidents I played for. I didn't like Lyndon Johnson. I had an affinity for Nixon, because I had known him when he was a congressman here. He'd been a violinist himself back in his early days, I understand. So I get along fine with Truman. Good fellow. Well, Eisenhower, I'm very fond of the
Yes, sir.
Eisenhower. Yeah, the Eisenhowers, they had a high regard for the band for me. Nixon, too. And Kennedy, I got along great with Kennedy. Absolutely. So that's about it. I had some wonderful experiences. I enjoyed the routine of the band back in those days. I enjoyed my own tours, for that matter, until they became a little tiresome. I did 24 of them. There was a great deal of repetition as far as the parts of the country and traveling. Didn't have the same motivation, I suppose, I had earlier. But I've been a fortunate man. I've had a wonderful life here. That's about it. I'm grateful to it all.
Great. Thank you very much.